Let's remain standing. It's again our kind and heavenly Father. We come to you, thanking you for this day. Thank you for waking us up this morning. Thank you for bringing us to this very point in time in the day. We thank you for a beautiful day today. Thank you for the sunshine and to bring us all here safely without hurt or harm. We ask that you watch over us in this meeting and bless our minds and hearts so that we make the right decisions for this county. These and all other things we ask in your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Guy. Okay. All right, moving along to number 3 for the approval of the October 16th, 2023 council meeting. Need a motion on that.
I make a motion that we approve the meeting, the minutes of the October 16th, 2023 council meeting. Minutes.
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vaughn. Any discussion, comments, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr.,
Opposed, I wasn't here.
you wasn't here, okay.
Oh, sir.
All of them except Mr. Killian there, and he wasn't at that meeting. Okay, citizens' comments next. A little confusion on the, when you sign up for these citizens' comments, we got them, some same people signed up for the citizens' comments and also for the rezoning, against the rezoning request. So we'll go with the citizens' comments to start with, and if you want to speak for the rezoning at that time, I guess it's okay to do that also. But Michael McClinton. State your name, address, and you got 3 minutes.
My name is Michael McClinton. I live at 620 Pine Ridge Road. Now, you say I can speak for the rezoning also?
Well, if you want to speak at both times, you can. If you just got some citizens' comment you want to make before then.
I prefer to speak at the rezoning, but I
Well-
can speak now.
If you don't, you're not going to speak again and on the rezoning.
Okay, all right, yeah, I'll speak now. Well, I'm here for the rezoning. I really want our community to stay, not be a commercial community, because it's no telling what they can bring in and what they cannot bring in. I've been staying there for 32 years. They put it back to a commercial, what you call them, resident area. And it's been that way for 32 years, okay? So it been other industries that went in that building. Like I can think about 4 or 5 under what it is now. So I don't want it to be a commercial. Now, only thing I ask is that when y'all make that decision, that y'all think about y'all community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McClinton. Okay, next would be Ms. Edna McClinton.
I'm sorry, thank you for letting me speak, but I may have signed up for the wrong thing. I want to talk about the rezoning, so should I sit back down and wait?
Well,
I'm sorry.
that's what I say. I believe you own both of them.
Oh, I don't want to be on both of them. I just need to be on the rezoning. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
all right, well, we'll call you back. on the
Okay, I'm
rezoning
sorry.
then.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, Bridget Grant.
Good evening, members of council. My name is Bridget Grant. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. My address is 100 North Tryon Street, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28210. We are on the agenda, but it's a second hearing, so I was going to go ahead and just give a few comments to some of the changes that we've made since the first reading. I sent an email earlier today to confirm, in response to the public hearing and some of the feedback that we received, we are definitely proposing to prohibit some of the uses that are permitted in ID2. As you may be aware, heavy manufacturing, some chemical manufacturing, and heavier uses are all permitted in ID3. None of those would be permitted as part of this rezoning for ID2. In ID2, as part of some restrictive covenants to go along with the rezoning, we do intend to prohibit manufacturing of tobacco, solar farms, poultry hatcheries, correctional facilities, septic tank servicing, communication towers, airports, and sporting facilities. If there are any other uses that are permitted in ID2, we are happy to explore those and include them in some of the restrictive covenants. The most common uses in ID2 are manufacturing and logistics, warehousing, and other office uses. Generally speaking, we're seeking to develop a light industrial park. And because it's a light industrial park, we don't know the specific tenant yet. But you can see when we gave you the email earlier, there's a site plan. It gives you an idea that based on the number of creeks and streams that are on the site, it sets itself up more for an industrial park, and it really does sort of frame where the buildings can go and how large any of them can be. And so that light industrial park setting is something we're trying to do to be proactive in providing opportunities for Chester County to get ahead of the game when you're looking at economic development opportunities. As we discussed during the last meeting, we're also willing to provide a 50-foot buffer along the perimeter of the site to guarantee that no industrial traffic can go out to Rodman Road. However, we can provide an easement from the park, from Rodman Road Park out to Rodman Road, so that other vehicles can get out to Rodman Road. We're also willing to provide a sewer stub to set the park up for necessary infrastructure at such time that the park wants to expand. I can't tell you it's going to be a specific tenant, as I mentioned. I can't say we've got someone great on the line, but what I can tell you is that it's very positive from an economic development perspective to have a site that's zoned ready. It can take anywhere from 6 months to a year sometimes to get a site zoned to the correct industrial zoning, and that can basically cause someone to move along and go to the next site. So we're trying to be proactive in working with Chester County and economic development to make sure that this is a good project and brings the right fit. We've been at this for some time. You all know we started out as a residential development and got some feedback that there was a lot more interest on a use that didn't have the same impacts on schools or roads, and so we've gone to this type of use. We are not able to completely slow down the process given how long we've been working on it, but we are willing to work with you all to decide if there are other conditions or limitations we can put on the site that would help garner your support. So in addition, we welcome your feedback, and I'm happy to answer questions later in the evening if you so choose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Okay. Next is Mr. John Massey.
John Massey, I live on East Lacey Street here in Chester. I'm here about Veterans Day 2023. Here about Operation Remember. March the 9th, 2011, the city of Burleson, Texas, launched Operation Remember to honor and archive the personal histories of local veterans. Visitors, family members, friends can view photographs of the veteran during his or her time in service. View videotape personal account of their war, time in service. This is not new technology. Appears the kiosk from 2011, unless upgraded or replaced, is still being used present day. It's listed still on the city's website. Imagine what it would mean to local family and friends, the children and grandchildren of local veterans, service members, deceased and alive today, future generations, not only to be able to hear the name mentioned during Veterans Day or to read the name off a piece of a black granite in town, but also have the ability to see their face, hear their voice, listen as they tell of their time in service, wartime or peace. Loved ones could post comments, share videos, post family photos. Each veteran's page could be found by simply entering their name and branch of service. In closing, this large photo album I'm about to hold up are but a small part of what I've been able to find so far. I made it large so you all could see it. These are the ones that made it home. These are veterans from World War II. And their name isn't on the monument. You don't know what they did in service. You just call me on my 3 minutes when it's up. These two men here, I knew them both. I served during the Vietnam era. Mr. Clack here is still in Vietnam. He went missing January 1st, 1969. This man, George Lindsay, used to work at Bilo. Used to, like, hand you a pound of hamburger meat. I never knew until I started doing the research, he won 2 Silver Stars and 2 Purple Hearts while in Vietnam. It's people like these whose names aren't on monuments that we need to remember and honor. The kiosk would do that. I'll flip to the last page here.
Okay, Mr. Massey, it's up.
I won't say anything, I'll just hold them up. Here are 100 veterans. Thank you.
Thank you for your input, sir. All right, we'll go into the, against the rezoning. We'll call up Ms. Edna McClinton again.
Good afternoon. I think all of you got a booklet that I gave you today, and our biggest concern is that it's always been that plant there, and it's always been people in and out of there. The reason why the guy wants to change it is because he wants to sell it as commercial, and he can't. But the guy that's in there now, if you see what I've already gave you, he's already living there. He's already resigned inside there. He said he wants to live in half of it, and he wants to work out of the other half. And by doing that, it's not going to do anything for the county of Chester or our residents. It's not going to make a big difference one way or the other. And you can already see he has a camper there. He has cars there. He made a complaint to a neighbor that he saw someone with a sawed-off assault rifle at 11 o'clock at night. The neighbor told him to call the police. He said he couldn't because his wife was scared. Well, if they wasn't living there, why were they there at 11 o'clock at night? And it's just a nuisance. He has done nothing to that property to make it of value. We would love to see it to stay multifamily, and if he wants to tear it down and we see some beautiful homes built there, we would be more than happy to see beautiful homes there. But what's there now is a nuisance, and the man that's in it at the time, at this present moment, is a nuisance. If you have any questions of the papers that I gave y'all, just let me know. I can answer any questions. I was, snapping pictures on my phone real fast because you all needed to see that it's movement inside and out of there. I know some of you've seen me. I'm the lady that runs all around town. One day when I got through running, I went in the back because some people that didn't live in our neighborhood wanted to have a party. So this was in July. So I went in the back, he was there, and 2 of his workers, and they were working out of there already. So I don't see why our community should be changed from multifamily to commercial, because he's already doing what he said he's not doing in there. And, oh, I'm sorry, yes, ma'am, I live at 620 Pine Ridge Road, Chester. And I know so much because I live right across the street from the plants. Me and my husband have been there 32 years. So we've seen all the in and out and the goings. And, it's a very peaceful neighborhood. It's not Victoria Hills, it's not Cherry Hills, but it's very peaceful, it's very quiet. Everyone keeps their neighborhoods very well. We have a police officer that lives in the neighborhood, so if it's any trouble, we have called her before about things. I also went to the Chester Police Department because he made a statement in zoning that it's been a lot of crime in our neighborhood, but they didn't get it back to me in time. I got to go back, but we haven't had a lot of crime in our neighborhood. It's very quiet. We haven't had a lot of crime. So we just asked the councilmen if you would please let our community stay as multifamily instead of changing it to commercial. And we would, if they want to tear that building down and put some beautiful homes there, we'd be more than happy. And thank you all for your time. Is my 3 minutes up?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I did good. Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Michael, you want to speak again or not? You done said what you're gonna say. Okay, all right, thank you, sir. Okay, moving along to Mr. Vernon Hughes.
I'm good.
Huh?
He signed up wrong. I'm sorry. I told everybody to put their name on that paper and, but I didn't know they had to talk, so nobody else really wants to talk. Okay, thank you.
All right, how about Ms. Deborah Hughes? You claiming the fifth also? All right, okay. Sherry, Kylie or Kelly?
That would be me.
Yeah.
I would love to speak. I will take all of their minutes.
No,
Just kidding, I
State your
promise.
name and address, and you also have 3 minutes.
Absolutely. My name is Sherry Kiley. I live at 2532 Rodman Road in Chester. And I'm speaking about a different piece of property about rezoning, and that's the piece of property that faces Highway 9 and goes around to Rodman Road. We had a lot of discussion about this last time. There were many things said, and I just wanted to kind of reiterate a couple things that were said. Mr. Killian was not here at that meeting, but Pete Wilson brought up something. He said, you know, it's not the council's practice to change a zoning on a piece of property that doesn't have a solid plan. And while I understand that they've given a picture and ideas and agreed to different things or mentioned possible things that they would agree to, there's nobody that's moving into this property. There's not a solid plan. The reason that the neighborhood is so concerned about that is like a Pandora's box. You know, once that's changed, as Ms. Erin Mosley so aptly stated last time, once that property is changed, it's hands off. We can't go back in and say, oh, by the way, we do want this or don't want that. That's what she told us last time at the meeting. Mr. Guy also stated, you know, we don't want everything industrial. He's lived by industrial. That's not what we want to do with traffic and things of that nature. So at this time, we would greatly appreciate that you deny the change of the zoning for this particular piece of property. We're not against change in our community. The gentleman that's going to come up this evening regarding the cement plant and having his zoning changed so that that piece of property that's sitting there can once again be used, we're all very much supportive of that. I'm very happy to see that that business is being reopened. The race car place is being used for something productive as opposed to sitting there as an eyesore. Yes, it was fun as a racetrack. Now it's going to be fun because there's trucks and there's economy and there's things coming in. It's not that we don't want growth. We want reasonable, sustainable growth. We want a plan that we can support in our community that's going to be safe for the people around there. This property is adjacent to a trailer park, a kids park, a church and a cemetery, agricultural land. It's R2. That's what it should be at this time as rural. Going forward, you know, the big plan comes, nice new neighbors decide, hey, we're going to move in, we're going to put in these buildings, we're going to do this. Here's a solid plan, here's what we're going to do, here's what we mean to do with this property. Our whole community would probably be right behind it. But right now, we don't know what we don't know. And by allowing that to change, you guys are setting a precedent going forward that's pretty scary for our county. And that makes us very nervous. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hey, where is this property at? Hey, where is this property at that you're talking about?
The property, it's, do you know where the Red Barn is on Highway 9?
Yes.
Okay, move back this way towards town where Oakley Hall School Road is.
Okay.
Turn off there, there's a little hair place there.
Yeah,
It's right next to that. And it goes around to Rodman Road, so it's kind of like a U-shaped piece of
Circle.
property
okay,
that goes over into that area.
thank
Yeah, it is surrounded by R2 properties. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, moving along to ordinance, the resolution and proclamations, in the month of November, we're going to read a proclamation here recognizing Family Court Awareness Month. So we know how important it is to protect our children and our families and everything. So we want to make it aware that Chester County and Chester County Council is very much in support of the Family Court Awareness Month. So whereas the mission of the Family Court Awareness Month Committee, which is related to as the FCAMC, is to increase awareness on the importance of a family court system and prioritizes child safety and acts in the best interest of children. And whereas the mission of the FCAMC is fueled by the desire to create an awareness and change in the family court system for the conservatively estimated 58,000 children a year ordered into unsupervised contact with abusive parents, while honoring the hundreds of children who have been reported as murdered during his visitations with their dangerous parent. And whereas the mission of the FCAMC is to increase awareness in the importance and periodically based education and training on domestic violence and child abuse, including emotional, psychological, physical, sex abuse, and well as child trauma, coercive control, and post-separation abuse for judges and all professionals working on cases within the family court system. And whereas the mission of the FCAMC is to increase awareness on the importance of using scientifically valid, evidence-based treatment programs and services that are proven in terms of safety, effectiveness, and therapeutic value. And whereas the mission of the FCAMC is to educate judges and other family court professionals on the evidence-based peer-reviewed research. Such research is critical, a component in making decisions that are truly in the best interest of children. This research includes the adverse child experiences, the ACE study, the co-principal investigator, Vincent Filetti, Kaizen Peramente, CDC, child custody evaluators, and beliefs about domestic abuse allegations. And the principal investigator is Daniel Saunders of the University of Michigan, sponsored by the National Institute of Justice. And child custody outcomes in cases involving parental alienation and abuse allegations is the principal investigator, Joan S. Mayer, is the CW Law School, sponsored by the National Institute of Justice. And now, therefore, I, Joe Branham, declare the month of November to be Family Court Awareness Month. I encourage all residents to support their local community's efforts to prevent the harm of children in the hands of family members and to honor the value of the lives of children. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Chester County to be fixed on this 6th day of November in the year of our Lord, 2023. Joe Branham, Chester County Chairman. And I think that's a very worthy cause and a very good thing that they're doing. Okay. Moving along to other resolution proclamations and ordinances. Under B, 2023-25, a resolution to amend this assessor's organization chart to be added to the position of Deputy Assessor Director. Need a
I'll make
motion?
a motion to approve it, but for discussion.
All right, we need a second on that.
Second.
We got a motion and a second, now open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, we hired the assessor from Horry County to come up here and evaluate the assessor's office in Chester County. Is that not true?
That's true.
Is this part of his recommendation?
This actually is not part of his recommendation per se, but what it is part of is succession planning that I've asked all of our department directors to do, is to find someone and to mentor and to train someone for succession planning. So this is a little bit different. This is something that Mr. Anderson had in the works actually prior to that audit. I can say that Mr. Anderson has implemented many of the things that were on that audit and is still continuing to move forward with those. But this specifically is a position that would be the number 2 person. We're not adding a position, we're just taking away one of the appraisers and turning them into a deputy assessor.
The thing that concerns me is we paid a significant amount of money to have this man come in and give us an evaluation of the assessor's office. And if we're not gonna follow that plan, then we wasted a lot of money.
Where we're not following it.
Well, I mean, that was not part, what he's asking for is not part of what the guy from Horry County said we needed to do.
Like this is an enhancement to it more so than deviating it from it.
Right, and his, that audit was more centered around processes and procedures and how we, our software that we use, some of our systems, I guess, if you will. This is more from a personnel standpoint. And again, just ensuring that we have, if our assessor tomorrow won the lottery and decided that that was his last day at work, we need to ensure for the county, for the citizens of this county, that we have people that are trained and that are prepared to take over in positions. And so this is 2 separate things, but we are following that audit, and I could meet with you anytime to give you an update as to where that is.
Well, I'm concerned that we went out and brought somebody in to evaluate Mr. Anderson's position, his job performance, those types of things. And now we're going to hire an assistant, for the sake of argument, to work with him without any knowledge of what the plan that we need to be following is. This is what gets us in trouble, in my opinion, in the county, is we develop plans, we hire people, we do stuff, and then we don't follow the recommendation. And all I want to do is make sure we follow those recommendations if we're going to spend taxpayers' money. Now, you're absolutely right. 30 minutes ago, a 5-pound bucket, a 5-gallon bucket of concrete rolled off a car and went up under mine, and I went sailing through the air. So you don't know what's going to happen 10 seconds from now. But for the sake of argument, it really needs to be explained to this council, and me in particular. I don't care about the rest of them, if they got to vote the way they got to vote. But I want to understand, when we're adding people, where the money's coming from, how it's going to be spent, and what we're going to do.
We're not adding a position here, Mr. Agee. This is taking an existing position and just turning them into a deputy as opposed. We're not going to backfill down the line. This person will continue to perform their job as a property appraiser. Their title will just change to deputy assessor, so that in the event anything were to change, they would be able to fulfill that role. They'll learn some additional responsibilities. And just as far as the money that we did spend, and I understand, we spent money to have an audit done, and I have that audit sitting on my desk. And Mr. Anderson sitting back there, and I asked him to be here tonight. Actually, if you look back, we have all of our directors pretty much here tonight that are affected. But we meet about that. We've met twice about that audit already, and I know where he is in those processes. I can share that audit with you and show you changes that he has made within his department. But that's, and I understand your concern that we did it, but I can assure you that that's my responsibility to follow up with that.
What's important to me is I assure the people that I work for that you're doing your job to make sure he does his job. And we're going to give somebody, if we're going to promote somebody into the deputy director, they're going to make more money, I would assume.
That person will, but we had that spot actually in the budget already. We had that money allocated in the budget prior to, because the person who left us was actually going into the deputy assessor job. That money was budgeted, and so this person going in, it's not changing our budgeting at all. That's the one thing I can assure you of.
Well, one thing I can assure you is the sheriff lost 2 officers last week. and he is really short-staffed out on the highway. And we have got to make sure that we don't overspend money and not be able to take care of the police force in this county. And right now, I don't know how many officers he's short, but it's significant. And giving somebody a job in an administrative as opposed to a police officer out on the street, I have a real issue with that.
All right.
Hold on, Mr. Brown. So, looking at the old assessor's, organizational chart and looking at the new one, from what I can see, you're gonna go from 3 property appraisers to 2 property appraisers, and one of the property appraisers will be the deputy assessor, correct?
That's correct, sir.
So could you just give me like a roundabout, how much more money will we spend with this deputy assessor? 10,000, 15,000, 20,000? How much more will we actually
technically-
spend?
So if you want to know how much of a raise that person's going to get, if I'm not mistaken, Tommy, correct me if I'm wrong on this, that person's going to get about a $4,000 raise, roughly.
So we're only-
However, the key thing is that position was already, but remember, we have an open position. It was budgeted to be a deputy assessor, so we have that money already higher than the amount we're actually giving.
So in the grand scheme of things, we're only talking about $4,000.
Correct, and
For a
we're,
new
from a
position.
budgetary standpoint, there's
So-
zero effect.
So here's the last question. So you don't think you'll come back and need that 3rd property appraiser? Then that's when it's gonna end up costing the county more money. If you come back and say, well, I need the 3rd property appraiser, then I can see where Mr. Agee's coming from, because then at that point, that's when it's gonna cost us more money. If you're gonna keep the same amount of people,
Right.
I don't see the issue in it if you're talking about $4,000 to train somebody in the event that something goes wrong with the assessor that we have currently. But if you're gonna come back and have to add that 3rd job, then I can see it being an issue.
I can't tell you where we are 5 years from now. As we grow and as homes come in and as Mr. Anderson's shop becomes busier. However, he is moving to more of a automated, I'll use that term, a lot more technology in his office. But it is not our intent to come back next budget year and add. This person will do the exact same thing they're doing, plus take on a few responsibilities of Mr. Anderson's from a standpoint of learning those. And when he is not in, just like if he's not here, that person steps in as an interim. So it's not our intent to create or add. It's our intent to, we're in a catch-22. If you add someone to take on additional responsibilities, then it's a little different than taking away responsibilities from people. So I can assure you this doesn't affect our budget and won't.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
This person he works in the office with them? That deputy you finna hire, he works in the office, he gonna be working in the office with them? Or you just?
We're not
gonna hire
hiring, it's a
somebody?
person that's already there. It's a person that's there. It's a title change only. And they will continue to function as a property appraiser and just take on a few extra responsibilities. They are in that office currently working. We actually have open positions in that office, some of which are on this sheet right now that Mr. Anderson's been diligently trying to hire.
Anyone else?
Yeah, my input on it would be that it's so important to have a succession plan in place. We've seen it in this county before where we've had leaders, even our top leader, out of commission, and that was not a good place to be. And so I want to see more of this. And really, your job is one I'm really focused on as well. That we need to make sure we have number 2s in place.
I agree with Mr. Wills.
Any further comment? Okay, we heard the motion. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. One against, Mr. Agee against, the rest of them for. Ms. Mosley, you was for.
No, I'm good, sorry.
You were
I thought
for it?
Yeah, I'm for it.
All right.
I apologize.
All right. Saw a little indecisiveness there, okay. All right, moving along to C, 2023-26, a resolution to amend the magistrate's organizational chart for magistrates court. Need a motion on that?
I move that we approve 2023-26 resolution to amend the magistrate's organizational chart for magistrates court.
Need a second?
Second.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion or comments on this?
I would just point out to council that this is subject to the approval of the senator.
Of the senator?
Yes.
Of the delegation?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fanning has already approved this, but it has to go before, he has to take it
Yes.
before when they go back in session
Right.
in January. But it's prudent for us to go ahead and move forward for council has to also approve it. And if there's any question as to why, I can explain that as well, but if there's no questions with regard to it, we can move on.
Well, only question I have is this a budget issue or something? Why are they, the centralized magistrates, why are they going from one full-time, why are they going from 2 full-times and 2 part-times to 1 full-time and 4 part-times? Do you know?
Yes, sir. And the reason for that is both the senator and Ms. Williford requested a meeting with me, Ms. Williford, our chief magistrate, to discuss this. And the real issue comes in, it's really hard for them to hire a full-time magistrates. It seems to be an issue throughout the state. Much easier to hire a part-time magistrate because part-time magistrates are allowed to have other jobs and duties, and therefore, many times because of the pay, it's very hard for them to hire the people that they want to hire for full-time. So really what she's doing is taking a full-time person, creating 2 part-time positions out of that. From a budgetary standpoint, it's pretty much a wash. Myself and Mr. Darby have done the math, and I can assure you, when we do these, we do the math. And it's pretty much a wash. And Ms. Williford's actually, our chief magistrate, has stated that she's only going to hire one of these part-time, one of the extra part-time this fiscal year anyway, just from a training standpoint and so forth.
So has a full-time magistrate lost a job, or they're going to become one of the part-time?
No, they have not been able to fill one of the full-time
So one of the
magistrate-
full-time jobs has already been open?
Yes, sir.
I got you. Okay,
Yes, sir, correct.
thank you.
That's Ms. Williford. Ms. Williford over there, right? She the chief?
She's the chief, yes, sir.
They say she don't be playing fair now. I don't know her, but they say she don't play fair.
Okay, any further comments?
There's one other thing, Mr. Chairman, there's going on within the legislature come January to look at the qualifications of magistrates. And then that may not be, the qualifications of a magistrate may be increased. It may not be somebody that the senator can just appoint. It's going to have to be somebody with an educational level in law and things like that. So this whole thing could change the 1st of January or sometime between now and the next budget year of the state.
Mr. Agee is correct in what he said, and that's one of the reasons for part-time. It's easier for the senator and Ms. Williford to find qualified, highly qualified individuals for the part-time basis than it is to find the full-time basis.
All right. Any further comment? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution 2023-26, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. You got,
Opposed.
you opposed, all right, Mr. Killian opposes on, 6 for, 1 against. All right, moving along to D, 2023-27, a resolution to amend the Public Works Organizations Chart to amend the title of the position currently known as the nuisance and abatement officer. Need a motion on that?
I make a motion, we have a resolution to amend the Public Works Organizational Chart, to amend the title of the currently known nuisance and abatement officer. That's Mr. Martin, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, I guess
I'll second that.
You second that, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, sir.
Okay, got a motion and a second, open for discussion?
Yes, could the administrator please explain to us to the citizens, what we're actually doing, and his, give some input on why you making that decision?
So to be honest, there's a lot of factors that kind of came into this one. One was we realized, and you have to, I'm not going to make the excuse of, but I'll state a fact. We went through a period where we did not have a human resources director, and then we lost a human resources generalist at the same time. This is the one that was signed off by Mr. Branham at the end of June was actually not what was approved by council, and we caught that. Okay, so it should have been, the title, let me come back to that, but the one that was signed off by Mr. Branham, that was provided through our human resources at the time, had this position reporting directly to the director. That's not what it's was intended or supposed to be. It's always reported to the recycling litter control coordinator. As we were investigating that part of it, we realized that over the past 4 years, I say 4 years, Ms. Lee, probably 3.5, 4 years, the name has just gotten convoluted. And so we went back all the way to when it was actually approved at its proper name, and there was a time or two where it was changed by an HR administrator without going to council and without proper approval. So we want to put everything back the way it's supposed to be and make it right. And these are just some of the little things that we find along the way and challenges that we come across. But it's really not a lot of, other than we're correcting some mistakes.
Any further comments? Okay, hear no further comments. All in favor of approving 23-27, the amendment for the Public Works Organization chart, raise your right hand and say aye. You're going to unanimous vote on that. Okay, moving along to E, 2023-28, a resolution to establish a capital reserve fund and to approve certain expenditures as available. Need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we have a resolution to establish a capital reserve fund and to approve certain expenditures as available with questions.
Second.
Second by Mr. Killian. Okay, open for discussion.
Go ahead, you can go.
What is the difference between the capital reserve fund and the fund balance?
It's a very good question, Mr. Agian. So technically, right now, and I'll kind of jump ahead of the list that council has provided in explaining the money and where it came from and how it is and how much we have. But we have a meeting after this list of capital that's been provided to council, pending your approval of this list. The remaining balance of those funds that are left above our fund balance. So everyone knows where our fund balance has to be. By ordinance, we have a certain percentage. Anything above that. Well, I think this is the first year in quite a while, Mr. Darby, that we've been above that number. We're $3.9 million above where we need to be. Okay, so that's a really, that should put some smiles on faces, and here's what that should do. And originally, we have presented council during the budget process with a list of capital that would be funded from our rolling stock. And then we presented council with a list of other capital asks by departments and divisions within the county, and stated that once we knew we would have carryover funds, we knew we would have more than the fund balance, we projected it to be 2.1 million. And we stated these are capital items that we will come back and revisit to approve once we close out the books, and we know precisely what that dollar amount is. Well, that dollar amount turned into even more. Again, we went from thinking we were going to have about 2.1 million to 3.9 million. And a lot of that has to do with interest and some other things, some really good job by our directors and our sheriff and our other county officials on savings at the end of last year. We also, when we presented that 2.1 million, and if I get too convoluted, just tell me, but when we had that $2.1 million of excess capital that we would fund with the overage in the budget process, the other great thing is our elected officials, our department directors, our sheriff, I'll give you an example. The sheriff saved us $600,000. He had an item in there that was $600,000, and he got that funded through another source. And so that plus we purchased some of the items that were on that list with end of the year money from departments that had saved. So we purchased that capital with their capital, what we'd consider their capital reserve. So long story down to the point is, instead of telling you we need 2.1 million in capital, I'm telling you that it's 1.2 million, and we have 3.9 in excess of our fund balance. Now back to kind of get to the bottom of your question, Mr. Agee. We're meeting, Mr. Darby and myself are meeting with Mr. Kozlarek later this week. And what we're going to do in that meeting is basically review our fund balance policy and determine the best course of action to place those funds in, we'll call it a reserve account, that will allow us as a county to be able to use that for special needs and projects. And when I say allow us, with council's approval, but if we needed a fire truck, we wouldn't have to go borrow money for it. Or if we needed an overage, contingency on a project that we need to get finished for some of these items, we would come to council. And basically, what I'm telling you is we're going to end up with about 2.7 million this year in what we'll call a capital reserve fund because of this. And so we will be able to, the goal is to roll that money every year, and anything in excess of fund balance, we can put it to it. And we don't, that way we don't have to allocate it to capital and spend it in that year.
Have you read the paper concerning the school board doing the same thing? They got $40 million.
I did.
Right, Aaron?
They have a certain, well, I don't.
I did read that, and and I know the controversy there is because they raised taxes.
They
And
raised taxes
and
on
we,
top of having a certain-
the benefit for us is we did not raise the millage, not one red cent, and we have a reserve. And that's a really good place to be in. I would understand frustration if we raised taxes and then ended up with a reserve,
And then we're sitting here
100%.
speaking about we have this much money, and raise taxes on people. We don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that.
So if we approve this tonight, then these items that you have listed here, the capital reserve items, these are the items that you, this is your wish list to spend some of this money on. Some of this money that we're going in the
Well,
capital
it'd be to
reserve.
allocate it to those capital items. Again, like you've got the Great Falls Memorial Building improvements, a new roof at one of the hangars, the ADA accessible. This is capital items, not operating expenses, capital items and capital budgets that will be added to our current situation. A couple of these, most of these items were in last year's, and remember, I told you we came from 2.1 down to 1.2. A few of these were new items because with some of the savings, and we saw a need, okay, let's go ahead and add some of this to our capital. The great thing is, with this list, it reduces, a lot of these things are items, some of these things are items that would have been on this coming budget year's capital request too. So it might help to lower our capital needs coming up and free up some more money for other things.
Well, the key question to all of this is that despicable jail out there. That is a despicable place for us as citizens to allow that place to exist. I'm all for putting people in jail that deserve to go to jail. but the men and women that work for this county don't deserve to work in that place, in some parts of it. So I would hope that you're gonna be working with the sheriff to figure out how we can build a new jail in this county. That needs to occur.
Yes, sir. And we actually, we spoke today by email about it, but there's a short-term plan, there's a long-term. The jail's a long-term plan. Short-term plan is to make sure that that jail meets all the federal and state requirements of a facility. And that's where we very likely will come back in the near future and ask for maybe some portion of this money to make some of those corrections.
Can you, can you talk through, and you may have said this, and I just didn't quite follow it, but how did you arrive at the $1.2 million amount that this totals? Where did so this list of projects of needs totals $1,205,000. How did you arrive at that being the amount that we needed to allocate at this time?
Based on the items that are listed on this sheet. So
That's the needs.
So-
You started with the needs, not how much money, because there's still more money available than this 1.2 million. Is that accurate, or?
these are needs and wants.
Okay, so is there,
And when I say wants, there's some of the things that we would have put off to next budget year. For example, there's a diagnostic tool for the garage, but we have the money to go ahead and purchase that now, so.
and this will, what will be the balance of that, balance? What will be the balance when this is used up?
Roughly, you're talking about the 1.2?
The capital fund balance?
Okay, roughly 2.7 million.
Okay.
And that's a rough number. We're roughly at 3.9, subtract the 1.2.
Okay.
We'll be roughly at 2.7. And again, most of these were things that were on a capital submission list for last budget year that we deferred until this money was available. Again, with some of the savings, we did go back and add a few things with the new position of project manager. That, if you look under 602 down near the bottom, that's all new capital. With our parks and recreation and tourism, I think there's not, probably over half of that is new, and some of that comes from the fact that we've just hired our new Parks Recreation Supervisor. We have a lot going on with our parks, and so this new equipment wasn't necessarily on, but it's stuff that we would have put in this coming year's budget.
And so will we do a rolling stock bond in the future, like we've done in the past?
So I'm going to answer that question with, I guess what I tell Mr. Kozlarek all the time. So the vision for us, from my standpoint as your county administrator, is to get to a point where potentially we don't have to do a rolling stock and we pay that off and we increase our ability to borrow for things like the jail, right?
Yeah.
And that we get away from that. I think for the next couple of years till we really fully establish this fund to a level that allows us to purchase capital on a continual basis without the need to scrimp and scrounge and forego other needs within the county. I see that as potentially a 2-year vision that we would do away with rolling stock. If, again, it all depends on economics.
And when does it come around again?
The rolling stock?
Correct.
Well, we do it every year in June.
June.
And, well, July 1st. It rolls with our new
That's
budget.
right. Yep.
So I don't want to get hopes up that this July we won't come to you with rolling stock. It really depends on financially where we are at that point and what capital needs there are.
Out of curiosity, going back what Pete raised the issue, who made the list?
This list was made by department, all the different departments, their capital submissions from last budget year. We took it right off of those items that weren't funded. Mr. Darby just basically transferred the list of capital that we did not fund onto this list, and then things that were already had a source of funding, we took off, like the sheriff's program, and then some of Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson actually saved us about $260,000 roughly. So I want to point that out when we were talking about his position. But And then we added things that I knew were going to be capital requests coming into next year, just like the Parks and Rec, just like our project manager. The nice thing is I can afford to buy our project manager a desk now.
All right. Any further questions? All right, we'll go ahead and take a vote on this on 2023-28, resolution to establish a capital reserve for health fund. Raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Unanimous vote. Excuse me. All right, the first reading in title only of 2023-20, authorizing the amendment in the infrastructure credit agreement by and between Chester County, South Carolina, and Macon Incorporated, dated September the 6th, 2022, to provide for additional infrastructure credits and addressing other related matters.
I'll move that we approve the first reading in title only of 2023-20, authorizing our amendment to the infrastructure credit agreement by and between Chester County, South Carolina, and Morcon Incorporated.
Second.
Second, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Could you explain that a little bit more in detail?
So that's just the expansion for Morcon. I believe Mr. Kozlark's in the back. You want to come up and speak? I'm going to use approximate numbers, you'll use exact. Council has approved this credit agreement, and we're trying to make sure that it gets done by the end of the year. Mr. Kozlark?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, Mr. Administrator, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. There is a credit agreement, special source revenue credit agreement in place that was approved last year by county council. That was covering a $4,480,000 expansion of the existing facility. That credit is a 39% credit for a 5-year period that begins with the fee payment that was paid this year. Morcon is making an additional expansion, and I will use the exact number that they gave us, $10,009,422. That they clearly have some specific piece or pieces of equipment. They know that dollar amount. This credit would be only on that new investment, not the total investment. It would be for a 5-year period, and it would be a 30% credit, and that would begin with the fee payment that is due in January of 2024. There, in addition to the current credit on the original investment, what would be the new credit on the new investment of, I'll say, approximately $10 million. The addition in the agreement would be a floor, so that by including both credits on their tax bill, the current amount that is being paid for 2023 would be the base amount that would be paid going forward. So that in no way could the math ever work out so that applying both of those credits, their bill would actually be lower than what they're currently paying now. I don't believe that's mathematically possible, but I'm the lawyer, and things like that make me nervous because I'm not a mathematician. So there is a base or a floor to what is currently being paid as of this year's fee payment. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions. This would be first reading in title only. There obviously would be 2 more readings in a public hearing. If possible, to be done by the end of the year, I think that's ideal. If for some reason one of the meetings were to be canceled, I think this could carry forward into 2024 without any impact.
Any question for Mr. Kozlark?
I have a comment. Morcon has been a valuable industry for District 2. I'm very pleased to see this expansion, and I think we should support them like we support all the other industries that we do, the new ones and the old ones alike.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Kozlark.
He talking about the tissue plant in Great Fall, y'all.
Yes, sir,
That's what he talking about.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor of the first reading in title only of 2023-20, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Unanimous vote. Okay, moving right along to the administrator's report.
I think I'm going to cut it short. You guys put me on the ropes tonight a little bit more than I thought till we got here, but I do want to make a couple of announcements. First, I'd like to introduce 2 of our newest employees. Mr. Harold, would you stand up, please? Mr. Harold Hayes this is our new project manager. And I am very proud for Harold coming to work for us. He's a Chester native, born and raised here, went to Chester High School, left here, went to Tuskegee University, and he got a degree in architecture. He has worked all over the country, worked in Atlanta, worked in Washington, D.C., and as recently as he came to us from Los Angeles. Can you believe we stole somebody from Los Angeles? All right. He's worked on projects with Universal, with NBC, with Disney, airports, hospitals, and I have to tell him I'm sorry. I haven't got to spend a ton of time with him since he started last week, but he is more intelligent than I thought he was. Scares me a little bit. But I am so happy to have him on board. So please join me in welcoming him. Harold, you got anything you want to?
Come up here.
Come on
to
up.
the
You can
speaker.
come up front.
I'm happy to be here. This is home for me. I've been gone for a long time, and this is the first opportunity I've been able to come back home and practice in my career field. Chester's a small town, so I had to go away to do what I wanted to do in architecture, and to have an opportunity to come back and bring what I learned throughout my career back to Chester is special to me. You know, as I recall my memory, I was in a talent show in this space right here. I think we had a stage. We had this stage right here. Yeah, it's probably still here. Third grade in this school, so it's different, man. It's like amazing. But like you said, y'all stole me from LA. It was hard. It was a hard decision for me, but nothing beats home. So I'm glad to be back.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Did you have any regrets about leaving California?
On what day was that?
We're on Facebook Live.
Saturday night I did, because it was so cold in LA. We don't have that weather. I was out there for 7 years, so my body has pretty much changed. Got the LA blood in me, so it's always cold here to me. So I'm trying to get back used to it. Yeah, and then I was LA is what 3 hours behind our time. So I got here. I started work last Monday, but I flew into town the Thursday before that. So I'm still trying to get on the East Coast time zone. It's rough on me.
All right,
Yeah,
good.
it's rough on me, but I'll pull through.
Oh, good. Thank you. Welcome.
All right, thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Hayes, and I will say Mr. Harold Hayes here represents the great class of Chester High 1992. With myself and Mr. Mike Levister back there, we're part of that class, so we really appreciate you and happy for you coming back
Good.
to Chester.
I'm glad to be here.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
And so next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Adam Beddard. And Adam is our new Parks Recreation Supervisor. And he comes to us from Hartsville, where he was the Assistant Director there for Parks and Recreation. Still working on moving his family up this way.
Yep.
And he's got to find a house. He's been looking. But comes to us with a lot of experience in the Parks and Recreation field. And he actually, and I'll tell this story real quick, he actually interviewed for the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. And the people that sat on that board, after hearing him, and there was a lot of discussion, and so then when we have needs for equipment as well. So I'll give it to Adam if you'd like to say a few words.
Council, I'd like to thank you guys for having me. It's today's week number 3. I've been hitting the ground running. I did a community cleanup this past weekend, had a lot of fun meeting with Mr. Guy and talking with him, and just seeing the passion he has for the community. And that's just something like Britt, Mr. Hester, and I we want to replicate, and we want to bring our Parks and Recreation Department up to the forefront. And we've got some, great ideas coming in the woodwork, and we just appreciate all the support you guys have given us over the past, Britt, 8 weeks, me 3 weeks. So expect big things from us, and we'll deliver.
Ms. Belinda Copeland from Hart?
One more time?
I think she was from Darlington.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same county.
yeah, the same county, okay, all right, good.
Well,
Congratulations and welcome on board.
Thank you, sir.
while we have Adam here, I was gonna wait till the end of the council meeting, but while we have him, I wanna thank Adam, and I wanna thank, Adam, who's our Parks and Rec supervisor, and Mr. Brett Stoudemire, who's our Parks and Rec, director. I wanna thank you both for, helping me this weekend, along with the city of Chester, clean up one of our parks. This weekend, we, woke up at 8 o'clock Saturday morning in the cold, and, I had my pickup and my trailer, and, Adam came out, and Mr. Stoudemire came out, and we cleaned up, George B. Guy Park. That's actually in, the neighborhood that I grew up in. And, we had a great time, cutting grass there and cutting trees and helping the city, get a hold of that park so that they can move forward and continuing to, take care of it. And we actually, discovered a hidden jewel there. I don't know if a lot of people understand, they think that that's just a park, but there's actually a nature trail there that's really beautiful, that a lot of people don't know that nature trail walks. It's paved and it goes along a waterway, and I found out that was done back in like 1998. But as we were cleaning up, Adam and Brett, they had some really good ideas and shared some things with us that hopefully in the future we can do for a lot of our other parks and our other municipalities like Great Falls and other places. So I appreciate you guys from the county coming over into the city, helping the city pick up litter and trash and trees, and I just appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. We had a great time.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good one.
And I can say that I sat in on a meeting, the meetings I used to have to run when we were discussing Rodman Ballfield, which I know is near and dear to a lot of hearts. And the questions these guys ask, the things that are on their mind, and if we would have had them in place, 2 years ago, we probably wouldn't be where we are with Rodman. But what I'm saying is, they're going to move it in the right direction. So, moving on, we did make two. I think it's important for council to know we did make 2 hires. I signed the PAFs for 2 animal control officers, which is fantastic, and so that helps bring some of our staffing up. We have not hired a director yet, but we did hire the 2 officers, and we were able to get South Carolina Works to have interns as well, which I think I talked about last council meeting. And then finally, I'm going to say a thank you to 2 people that don't get thanked a whole lot, and that's our attorneys. Miss Winters and Mr. Kozlark in the back. They're kind of the unsung people behind the scenes. They get beat up a lot, picked on a lot, asked to do a lot of stuff at nights and weekends, and so I haven't really recognized our employees in a while, and I think it's just important that we recognize them and the good work that they do for us. Sometimes not everybody's happy with them or me or other people, but they work just as hard and are just as passionate about our county, and I can promise you that. Their passion is just amazing, and that's where you as a community are so lucky at the passion a lot of these people bring for this community, and they're residents here. And so I'd just like to say thank you, and I missed Joni's birthday, which was last Thursday, so let's just tell her happy birthday. Happy birthday. I missed it because it was so close to Halloween. Hint, hint.
All right, Mr. Hester, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for hiring somebody that looked like me. Yes, sir. I want to thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my administrator's report.
Okay, all right, we'll move on from that then. All right, thank you, Mr. Hester, on that. Moving on to the old business, on number 7, A is the second reading of CCMA 23-11. Tayana Latil Kelly requests max tax map 069-04-02-051-000, located at 522 Gloria Drive off of Pinckney Road, to be rezoned from multifamily resident district, RG1, to general residential district, RG2. The planning commission voted 6-0 to approve. No, ma'am.
No,
No.
you okay.
Yes, I am trying to buy my first home, and, I just want to rezone it to RG2.
We get it. Okay, we're gonna take care of it.
We'll take care of it. You okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
You all right?
All right, then, I need a motion on this.
I want to make that motion.
Motion, you got a second?
Second.
Second, got a motion and a second. Now discussion.
What's actually changing? Oh, it's going from RG1 to RG2.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
All righty. I think, we'll go ahead and, no discussion on that. I think we can go ahead and take a vote on this. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. 100%. All right. All right. Yeah, getting a little restless, wasn't it? All right, moving along to B, the second reading of CCMA 23-12, Griffin Land Holdings LLC, CO, John H. Ross, request tax map number 106-00-00-121-000, located at Highway 9 and Highway 909, to be rezoned from rural district to Rural 2 District, and to, that's an R2, to Limited Industrial District, ID2. The Planning Commission voted 6-0 to approve with a 5-year reverter clause and no entry off of Rodman Road. I need a motion on that.
I'll make a motion, we approve the second reading of CCMA 23-12.
Second.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Killian. Any discussion on this?
Yes, could you have Ms. Grant, I think she represents this, this reading, to come up and explain to us these email that we received, I don't know if everybody received it, but about the sample buildings.
Good evening again, Bridget Grant, Land Use Consultant with Moore & Van Allen. So we sent an email today to highlight the uses that are currently permitted in ID2 and spelled out those uses I mentioned earlier that we would eliminate. And I think it's important to look at the site plan. We included that in the packet. This is just one potential site plan that shows you how the buildings can be laid out. What you may notice is that the green corridors show you a number of streams and creeks that already run through the site that really establish where buildings could ultimately be placed. It shows you that there's a 50-foot buffer around the perimeter of the site that we're willing to commit to, that we don't intend to provide access to the industrial site onto Rodman Road, but there's an opportunity for us to partner with Chester County to give an easement to allow the park to have direct access to Rodman Road. I think you'll see that our two site accesses are only from Lancaster Highway, and this just gives you an idea, as I mentioned. It's intended to be a light industrial park, consistent with the types of uses. Again, while we don't have a specific tenant in mind, it really does show you how it could be built out and the limited number of buildings. I would also like to say that while it's not, it is consistent with the goals of where we want to grow. There's a map for Chester County that shows the corridors of where we'd like to grow, and there are comp plan goals that talk about creating industrial opportunities, and so we believe we're aligning with those goals. And I'm happy to answer any questions or add to restricted uses or other conditions if
So you're
desired.
considering, is that the easement you're considering giving to the ballpark up here in the top right-hand corner?
Basically, if there was some way to cut across the site, that's what was asked during the planning commission meeting, that we provide the easement to get you out to Robin Road. The location hasn't been determined. We're flexible on that.
How does that, Mr. Hester, how does that her giving that easement, how does that affect or change anything that has to do with our plans with the Rodman Ball Field as right now?
The only thing that really potentially would help us is the easement really, I don't think does anything for us from my perspective at this point. Now it'd be more of a question to Harold on the backside, if it access the backside. I think that's too low and that's too much of a wetland. I don't think we could do anything with it anyway. The only benefits to that are the potential sewer stub and the water, but again, I don't know logistically, tying into that, because there's a pretty heavy drop-off and slope back there, so I don't know logistically what that looks like. But it does potentially provide that, which the firefighting capability, as well as the sewer, would be potential benefits if they were able to get in there.
Ms. Grant, how hard would it be for you to come up with some sort of elevations? As, I see what you sent me, but some sort of a better looking elevation of what those buildings will look like, and some information on what those buildings will be made out of, within the next week or so. What I'm wanting to do is, and I mentioned it to another council member, I'm thinking about, since this is in my district, I'm thinking about holding a town hall meeting, because I have people in my district, some for and some against, and I want this situation to be clear to the people in the district. When I first ran for this office, I had the idea there was to not have it be residential. They didn't want residential. Now it's industrial, and I have some residents that don't want it to be industrial, so it puts me in a hard place. And I am one that I really don't like residential. I don't like industrial in residential places, but there's really not a lot of houses around this, but we're changing. So I'm considering having a town hall meeting here really, really soon. How soon can you have me some elevations as to how this will look and what these buildings will be made out of?
I can get you some additional information. We can't tell you the exact material color, because that's up to a tenant, but we can give you.
The material will be,
right.
will they be metal buildings? Will they be stucco buildings? Will they be brick buildings? I need all that information, because just like one of the citizens said, we don't have a clear-cut plan as to what we're actually doing, so.
We can pull together some, thank you.
And I'll be in touch with you on.
Okay.
I have a question. The green areas, that, you said that was streams, correct?
Those are existing creeks and stream
Okay,
corridors.
anybody that knows me knows that I'm very concerned with our natural resources and the water that's on this property. And Chester County is actually at the forefront of a lot of counties, I think, in establishing a requirement for development that protects streams and waterways with 100-foot buffers. And I want to suggest that you and Mr. Hester get together and discuss the 100-foot buffers on this property and try to come to agreement that you can do that.
It's going to be above and beyond the 100-foot, but we can confirm that for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What is the blue?
The blue are potential stormwater pond areas where we put the water when it's being treated before it goes into the streams. Anytime you do construction, you see the new stormwater ponds there to control the water quality.
Retention ponds.
I had a few questions for you. So the buffer around the perimeter, is that going to be a landscape buffer or undisturbed, natural? What will that look like? Will it have a fence?
Undisturbed buffer.
Will it have a fence or no fence?
We hadn't contemplated a fence at the time, but we can look into that as well.
Just curious. What's the total square footage of all the buildings put together?
I'd have to add up the ones. Again, it was sort of a fit study, but I can add it all up for you and send it over.
It would be helpful to know that it would not exceed this amount. That would be a helpful parameter to know that the total square footage would not exceed
We can do that.
a certain
Absolutely.
number. It says, the planning commission, they made this recommendation with a reverter clause of 5 years. And this really might be a question for you, Mr. Hester. So with that reverter clause of 5 years, does that mean that they would have to break ground on one of those buildings, all of those buildings, be complete? What does that exactly mean?
I don't know, Mr. Levester, was there any specific, Mr. Levester will come up?
What they gonna put in them buildings? What y'all gonna put in them? What kind of building, you know, what y'all gonna put in them? Oh,
Good evening, council. So the thing was, the 5 years is construction of one of the buildings of this project has to be started in that 5
One.
years, or it reverts back to the current zoning of R2. And I'd just like to make one comment, that she's putting conditions on, so if we make the motion in the second, if you want to include those conditions, then we'll need to remove the motion in the second and include her conditional that she's proposing of not uses. If you want to put that on the table.
I think that would be good. All right, you've heard Mr. Levester and the questions, everything, and he raises the situation of where do we want to withdraw the motion from the second to the first and add the condition that she added to it.
you want me to withdraw? I'll withdraw my second.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay, now, would you like to make another motion that would include the restrictions that she volunteered put on the property itself, which is listed on the email that she sent?
Let me just ask you a question. Since it was on the email that was sent to us and not to the public, does that mean that's okay to do that? Okay.
It should be
Well, she
read
read 'em.
out.
Okay,
She
okay,
read 'em out.
okay, okay.
It should be
I'm
part of your motion.
sorry. Okay.
And if
sorry.
we could, I'd like to
I was just making sure I did it right.
add those 100-foot buffers around the streams.
Okay. All right, I make a motion to approve the second reading of CCMA 23-12 with the conditions as Ms. Grant stated, with also the 100-foot buffers around the streams, water in the property.
Second.
Got a second on that? That includes the restrictions that she read. If you got those, Madam Clerk?
And also the original, you want to make sure you include the original reverter that was put on by planning for the 5 years.
No,
And no, yes,
I'm gonna need a
no,
list.
sorry.
I think most of that is in the email, so do we want to refer that to the email?
You could incorporate by reference the email to your
Okay.
motion, and that would resolve that.
Okay. Do we need to redo it, or?
Yes, please, sorry.
All right, you know, we're gonna get it right.
Just do it right.
We're gonna get it right.
Oh, I want
A little
to
convoluted.
withdraw my second.
I withdraw my motion. Okay, I got you. All right, I make a motion to approve the second reading of CCMA 23-12 with the conditions provided in the email as Ms. Grant stated, with the 100-foot buffers, as well as the 5-year reverter clause,
And no access.
and no access to Rodman Road. Thank you. No.
All right.
No, that's right.
Second?
Second.
Got a second from Mr. Killian. Any further discussion or question?
So to be clear, the intent would be to, if it was rezoned successfully, there would be no activity until there was a tenant, or would there be any roads put in, building pads built? At what point would y'all take it?
essentially, I think we'd begin some site work
Y'all
as
would
we are
begin
trying to
site
approach a
work.
tenant, or we're working in collaboration with economic development, and so there's the opportunity for them to bring potential tenants to us, which could fast track how fast we break ground.
So Griffin Land Holdings, that's your firm? That's who you're representing?
I'm
or-
representing them, yes.
Okay, you're representing
And there is a
them.
developer, there's a representative here if you'd like me to have Will come up.
So I guess my next question has to do with their experience in these types of projects. Do you or they, I guess they, had the experience of other projects in other counties similar to this?
I know that development partners on the team do have experience with this type of industrial development. We can
If
get
we
you
could
some
have them come
examples.
up, that would be helpful to meet them. I'm not quite sure I'm aware of who that is.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, my question was just experience that y'all have had in working these projects similar
Yeah,
to
so
this.
we're all over North and South Carolina, do a lot of these industrial parks and have in the past, one specifically in Indian Trail, North Carolina. And we obviously focus on residential, but we also do industrial as well, so.
What is your estimate in terms of how quickly this park would fill up? I mean, I know that's a big question. It
Yeah.
has a lot to do with the economy.
Yeah,
I
there's
get
a-
it,
yeah.
But what's your hope or your
A
estimate?
lot of ifs, ands, or buts, but we move things along as fast as possible. So it's really market driven, and we see a need for these spaces in this market, and so we plan to move it as fast as possible.
Let me ask you a question along that same line.
Okay.
Now, you have X number of buildings, and Mr. Keegan asked you what you're gonna put in them, and we didn't get an answer to that, but if X number of square feet, are they gonna pay 6%, or are they gonna pay 10% in taxes? Or are they gonna, Mr. Phillips is gonna come in here and say, we got a fee in lieu of tax, and somebody's gonna go in here and do that? So we're kind of buying a pig in a poke. We don't know how much money we're gonna get out of the deal.
We're going to identify a maximum square footage for you, and in terms of the permitted uses, it's what I mentioned before, we're looking at the opportunity to have a light industrial park, so it would be warehouse, distribution, logistics. There's a lot of life science interest in the Carolinas region, and so we're looking to develop something that would support those types of uses. But we can't speak specifically. Some tenants are larger than others. Some would take 4 buildings, some would take 1, but they all fall into that light industrial park use.
And what do they typically pay in taxes?
I can't speak to the tax rate here specifically, but we can look into that for you as well.
Well, do they pay 10%, or do they pay 6%, or what's?
I think that'll be left up to us when we negotiate.
I see.
When it comes in there.
I see where he going with it. 'cause
Typically
they
for us,
building-
that's 6, Mr.
They
Agee.
building them buildings over there in Fountain Inn now. Different buildings, different logistics going in them. I see that over in Fountain Inn, and it's nice.
All right. Any further questions?
Well, I would just like to make a comment, because I know we're fixing to go to the vote for the property. I just want to say, just for everyone watching and here tonight, a lot of times we do these, and I vote or I submit a recommendation for approval. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm 1,000% in. It just means I'm offering a fair timeline for the owners of the property to maybe come to some sort of an agreement with us, what's best for the community, and likewise. So I just want to kind of say that publicly. There's nothing that, it's just, I just felt like that just needed to be said, and I just want to give you guys, be fair to you guys, be fair to the community, and let everybody kind of come to an agreement, and we kind of sit around and speak to our constituents and figure out what works best, and if it works out, great. But if not, don't shoot the messenger, I guess I should say. But just kind of wanted to reiterate that comment.
All righty, we ready to vote?
So I'll just say to kind of along those same lines, this is a very complex project. It really is. I understand the intent here of trying to have this zoned ready for a tenant. In the past, this council has talked a lot about spec buildings. This is not a spec building. This is the property without the building. It's not an easy one. But I also remember the controversy when it was looking to be houses. And so the landowner has a right to do something with their land. Which one would be a better fit? Not really sure. That's my call anyways. I don't know. I'm going to vote one way tonight, but I will tell you my mind's not made up.
I am going to have that town hall meeting, Ms. Grant. I would like for you to be there. I will either have the administrator or myself get in touch with you, and then I will get in contact with the citizens that want to be there. I'm kind of like Mr. Wilson. When I first started my campaign last year, there was some of the citizens didn't want residential there. And it is zoned for residential now, but, now some citizens don't want the industry there. So I want a clear-cut picture from Griffin Land Holdings as well as you, and we get together with the citizens and figure out what we're doing.
All right, we ready? Okay, all in favor of the second reading of CCMA 23-12 of Griffin Land Holdings, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. All opposed? Two. Mr. Guy, Mr. Agia against, the rest of them for. All right. Thank y'all. All right, moving along to C, the second reading of CCMA 23-13. Jeff Sanders requests map number 115-00-00-102-000 located at 2707 Lancaster Highway, Chester, South Carolina, 29706 to be rezoned from restricted industrial district ID1 to limited industrial district ID2. The planning commission voted 6-0 to approve.
Make a motion, we uphold the planning commission.
Got a motion to uphold the planning commission. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Killian. Any discussion on this? I think this one here is the concrete plant, correct?
Oh.
Yeah.
Cleaned it up and made it look really nice if they don't ever do a drop of concrete out of it.
All right, no discussion? All in favor of second reading of CCMA 23-13, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote. All right. Moving right along to Mr. Killian to request the add of a street light on the corner of Meadowbrook Road and Nelson Road.
I want to put that in a form of a motion. That's out there where your dad is stay at, where it's dark at, and a couple of people done got killed. So I think we need to put a light there.
I make a motion that we add street light to the corner of Meadowbrook Road and Nelson Road.
I made the motion.
You made the motion.
He made the motion.
I'll
He made the
second it.
motion.
Yeah. I'll second.
All right, is there any discussion?
Is that the only place that's, where the light, a light like that is needed? Is there any other area that could be looked at?
Just right there.
Okay,
It needs.
I don't want to
that.
miss anything. If there's something else that needs to be lit up, I'm good with that too.
Thank you.
The adding of this light, is this a safety issue, or is it something that is dark to, I mean, you know, we have, you mentioned
Safety.
the fact that it had a couple of
Safety.
shootings out there in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
is that correct?
shooting, and they,
What about the lighting situation in town where we have these drive-by shootings? And they well lit. Would that enhance them being able to see the shoot, or would that be? I'm not against any lights being put anywhere, but
There go the
if
sheriff
we,
right
if
there.
we start putting lights up on every corner,
so you can see where they shooting at. There go the sheriff. Sheriff, come on up here and let him know.
If it's a deterrent, I'd like to have it lit up.
So, it's no secret that well-lit areas deter crime. And so I think that's where Mr. Killian's kind of going. We have talked about this area, since the last incident occurred. And, you know, from my perspective, I do believe that would, deter some crime. You know, sunlight, deters bad behavior. So, you can use that analogy in a lot of things.
how many shootings do we have in well-lit areas?
I don't have any stats on that.
Do they occur?
They occur. I mean,
In
we have
well-lit
shootings that
areas.
occur in broad daylight. But you know, that's one of the elements. You know, you talk about enhancing, beautifying locations, and sometimes that requires you lighting things up. So,
Most of the shooting be in the black neighborhood, where it's dark at, where people can't see. And we need to get light up in them neighborhoods because it's just dark there, man. You walk down, like going down through East Chester sometime, it's just dark in certain areas. And they know what a dark area is at, so they can just shoot. But if you put some lights up there, then I'm hoping people start telling you what's going on. That's the biggest problem in Chester. They won't tell you what's going on, and the only reason why they won't tell you because of police present. If you have police, I know you short, but if you start putting police in the neighborhood, some of this crime will go down.
Yes, sir.
Is Meadowbrook Road close to Pine Ridge?
Yeah, it's,
Yes.
It's back this
It's on
side,
Pinckney.
before
I
you
went
get to
down
Pine
Pine
Ridge.
Ridge the other day.
it's
You
on
know
your-
where St. Paul's Church
you
is?
going to right. Yeah.
Right where the, 4-lane turns into 2 lanes, that's the road back to the left, going back.
It goes back out to 72.
I went through there the other day too. I went by and looked.
I'm for lighting up neighborhoods as much as possible, but my concern is, are we gonna be setting precedents to where we have to, what about the next one that wants 4 lights up in the neighborhood? How much is this are we opening up a Pandora's box on this thing?
Well, I don't think we're opening up a Pandora's box. I think that if an area needs lighting, I think it's our responsibility, no matter how many lights it is, to put the lights up. If the lights, if we need, that's what we pay taxes for. If there's a area that's dark and, just like our sheriff said, that well-lit areas will deter crime, I think it's our responsibility to spend that money to put that light up. I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Branham, that, we may have more citizens ask for more lights, but hey, if they ask for more lights, we gotta put them up. That's just where I'm at. We gotta do something to deter this crime. We want more people to move into this county. We're on the news, we're in the newspaper. There's always something going on, and, it's not stopping. So if it's lights that's gonna take it to stop it, let's light it up.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments on this? I mean, you have to take in consideration of what we're doing. I mean, I know what you're saying, and I know the lights help, but can the county afford it?
Mr. Chairman, can I point out 3 things? Number one, I did the study, Mr. Hall actually looked into it for me. Duke Energy will put the light up at no cost. It'll just cost $13 a month for the additional light. So pretty inexpensive in and of itself. The other thing to be aware of is, if you do have other areas, the concern is, what happens if a subdivision or somebody starts calling. One thing is that, based on our ordinance, homeowners and specific homeowners, as well as homeowners associations, have the ability to contract themselves and pay that through their HOAs. So I think that would be your remedy in situations like that. And then third, just be mindful under the ordinance that we currently have. It has to be a unanimous vote for this to be approved tonight as well, based on the ordinance.
Because it's a pole already up there. They ain't got to do nothing but put
That's
the
right.
light up
Pole
there.
is there.
It's already there.
Pole's there, it's just a matter of installing the light, and then the $13 a month.
Do you know how soon that might go up?
It was relatively quick, right? Within 30 days.
Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot, but kind of want to, thank you. Okay.
Do we have any lights currently that the county's paying for in areas? I know we do, but, I mean, do you?
You saw my face.
Yeah, but, well, I guess a better question is, how much is the county, do you know what the county's paying for lighting of that nature now?
Well, it's not broken out into lighting of that nature. We have a utility bill. Our utility bill with Duke is as a whole, so it encompasses everything that we pay. So you can't really, could we go in and break it out? But what happens typically is something falls off, and then, we approve, just like the Highway 9 corridor, the ramp lighting, some of that stuff. It goes on. The key for us is to make sure that it stays in budget every year. And so we look at any time we add, we take a look at where are we based on what we budget and where's our bills been running on the average for the past 3 years. And so right now, we're in a safe spot.
Thank you.
I will say that the town of Richburg gets a reimbursement from Duke Powell for the streetlights. by putting streetlights up, the town of Richburg gets reimbursed from Duke Powell, and that's how they operate their town, is from the revenue they get back from Duke Powell. I don't know if the county does that or not.
That's interesting. I don't know how that works, but
I don't either. I've never heard tell them Duke Power reimbursing.
if I can get them to give us some money back.
Giving money back.
All right,
I guess my comment would be, I mean, for the price, I'm definitely in favor of it. I mean, it's not much.
I'm in favor of it too, but I'm just looking at the ramifications of it down the road.
Well, each lighting request will have to come before this council, correct?
Correct?
That
Yes,
will-
sir.
That will slow it down.
I promise you I won't approve no lighting without it going before council.
All right, all in favor of Mr. Killian's request for the street lighting on the corner of Meadowbrook and Nelson Road, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain on this. I'm not going to vote one way or the other.
You have to vote, Mr.
Abstain, huh?
Unless you have a conflict, you have to vote.
Well, against my better judgment, I'll vote for it then.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mr. Brown.
Like I say, I'm totally looking at the ramifications down the road and what we have to, what the county is going to incur. I can see that it may not be anything, but then it could be major. All right, unanimous vote on that. Okay, under new business, under 8, number, on 1, the first reading of CCMA, excuse me, 23-14, Robert Reed and Greg Schaffner request tax map number 124-00-00-008-000 located at 3353 Edgeland Road, Richburg, South Carolina, 29729, to be rezoned from Rural District 2, R2 to General Commercial District, GC. Planning Commission voted 6-0 to deny.
I make a motion, we follow the planning commission recommendation for discussion.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Got a motion and a second, open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Reed is in the back there. I've known him all his life. His daddy, his granddaddy, and they own all the land, and a farm out there, and part of it where they're talking about building Winchester, or some of his family owned. I also know the family that lives right next to the place that I went to first grade with, and he and his wife have lost 2 of their sons that served our country, or one of them that served our country. It is a really, it's where the old Louisville Academy used to be, where Louisville got its name is the piece of property he owns. It's 10 acres. And I have a lot of difficulty doing that because I have so much personal knowledge of these people, and I don't want to say Mr. and Ms. Blank's hurt. But at any rate, Mr. Reed has come in and taken a piece of property and made a very nice place out of it, and he runs a successful business. His grandfather worked for many years for Springs, Ms. Close, directly. His daddy was a controller at Winthrop for many years. We're not talking about somebody that's just coming into the county. We're talking about long-term family, both of these families. And I don't know how I'm gonna vote right now this minute. I really don't know how I'm gonna vote, because I'm torn between both sides. But that's how this is done. Mr. Reed, if you, can he get up and and give an explanation of some of it.
Public hearing. You do
Yeah.
that at the public hearing. This is not.
Appreciate the opportunity.
It's out of order.
Make it short.
I'm Rob Reed, 3458 Hernandez Road. And I just want everybody to know that, look, I'm here for Chester County. You know, I want to partner with you. I want to do what's right by Mr. Agee. You mentioned some of the history there. You know, Chester County is important to me. That area is important to me, and I want to see it grow out, and I want to see it, you know, reflect in a good light. You know, the Blanks house, my great-great-great-grandmother actually grew up in that house. So, you know, before the Blanks family was there, that was a family property that's near and dear to me. You know, I will like to state just a couple of, you know, factual things I looked up on that I would like y'all to take into consideration. And that was, one being the, planning commission, I think denied 6-0 based off of a spot zone. And I did, the best I could on the beacon, and it's exactly 300 foot or one football field from industrial, which is ID 2. And it is less than a half a mile from general commercial going one way, and less than a half a mile from general commercial going the other way. And it actually borders, as in no distance at all, RS1, which I'm not sure what that one is, but it's not R2. So, you know, I would like that, as well as to be noted, when I bought that property, it was in the master plan. And if you take the beacon map and you zoom out just a little bit, you see a lot of commercial property. And, you know, just if y'all, the planning commission, or if y'all don't want me to do business there, you know, it is currently zoned R2, and I would have the opposition in this, you know, look at, would you rather me, as a business owner that's currently there, and to my knowledge, we've never had one single complaint from any neighbor, from any municipality or county or, you know, regulator of any kind, or would you rather, you know, it's currently being zoned R2, which allows for more housing, more of what I think I see a lot of opposition against, manufactured housing. I think, you know, the exact, I looked up it, I'm no expert, you know, I'm a small business owner, and, you know, it's a tough thing to do, but what I want to do is continue to grow, and I need that land to do that, so.
Thank you, sir. Any more discussion? Or any further discussion?
I read the minutes to the planning commission, of course, and, there was some talk about it being a spot zoning. And if I could, I'd ask Mr. Levester to come forward and kind of talk us through whether this would be considered spot zoning or not, in his professional opinion.
I'm just gonna reference what it says in the comprehensive
That's what I want you
rules.
to do.
So basically, and Joni may be able to contest to it, that all the lawsuits that was ever against spot zoning is acreage that was less than 2 acres. And this is a total of 10 acres. So by reading that and all the law and all the cases, this wouldn't be considered spot zoning because it's more than the 2 acres. It's always been against in the lawsuits.
You concur with that?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. So that's kind of where I come at it. I mean, to me, I do know that Mr. Reed has a good reputation of having a business out there. You can ride by it. It's a nice place. To expand across the road, it's his property. I talk a lot about property rights. It's not real popular, but it's his property, and you know, why would we prevent him from doing that? He owns it legally, and I think what he wants to do with it's legal, and it's on a main highway. It's not in Victorian Hills. I read a lot about Victorian Hills, but it's not down the end of Victorian Hills. It's across the road on the main road. So I don't really see the big concern about this, and why it would be a bad fit. So I'm going to be in favor of it. That's my perspective.
It's his property, it's yours.
And I would state too, this isn't, you know, the lady that spoke earlier and wanted to get it zoned to have a plan or to increase the value, to bring in, you know, to sell it to a future business. I've got an immediate plan to put put something in action and bring, you know, my business model in particular has been bringing outside business outside of Chester County into this county to spend money. They come in, they fuel up, they eat, they, you know, they support all the neighboring businesses. And, a lot of our business model is, you know, bringing in outside business. So, you know, I do think it would be good for the county.
I can vote for that. If you're gonna do that, I can vote for
I
that.
appreciate that, my man. Thank you, sir.
All right, any further discussion? All right, everybody ready to vote? All in favor of CCMA 23-14 with Mr. Robert Reed and Mr. Craig Shansford, raise your right hand. Well,
If-
wait a minute, the vote is
Yeah.
to deny.
The motion was to deny, was
The
to
motion was
uphold.
to deny.
Yes, sir.
So all in favor of denying this, raise your right hand, say aye. No votes to deny. All in favor of allowing
Well,
Mr. Reed?
We'd need a new motion. Let's get another motion.
Okay,
And we can question the new motion, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
so we need a new motion to allow Mr. Reed and Mr. Stratford to put this business there.
I'll make a motion, we approve the first reading of CCMA 23-14.
To allow them
Yes,
to go against the commission's
yes.
deny on it, okay.
Second.
Second. All right, any discussion on that?
Yeah, so, in reading through the minutes, I'm seeing that, someone made a comment that there's a lot of housing there. So so the housing that they're talking about is the Victorian Hills housing? Which housing are they talking about?
I imagine it's also the new houses that are going in currently on Knightsbridge.
Yeah,
And
but-
then on down the road at Hernandez, there's going to be Winchester Development is down there as well.
So this is on the same road as,
It's on 901.
Yeah.
okay, because I was trying to, when I was looking at it, I was trying to actually figure out where,
Just past Victoria.
It's on the left.
But it's on the left, right?
It's not,
I
it's
can
not.
show,
It's not. He's on border.
if I may, show the gentleman
No.
That's all right.
no, you don't have to.
okay.
I have to stay, I'm kind of like Mr. Pete here. I have to stay consistent about, you know, what I want in residential areas, and I try to stay consistent with that. So in order for me to be good with this, I'd have to put a reverter clause in it that he can't sell this to, once we change this, that I'd like to see where he can't sell it for a certain amount of years, if you guys will go for that. So, so it won't get in the situation that we're going to deal with next, where, you know, he decides he wants to sell this to somebody, and then we got a commercial industry coming up right here near these houses on this same road.
Why don't we
If he's gonna use it for his business, fine, but I think we should put in, because, I mean, I just don't feel good about voting for something that the planning commission voted 6-0 to deny. But I also understand that this is his property, he's running a business, and he wants to utilize the property. I have no problem with that, but I think if he really is going to utilize his property, which I really believe in, but I think we should put some type of clause in it that he can't sell the property to a general commercial buyer for so many X amount of years.
Or, I mean, you can't stop him from selling it, but have it revert.
Have it,
If he-
have
if
it,
he sold-
He'd
there you
lose the
go.
zoning. He'd
Revert
lose
back.
the zoning. The
Right,
zoning would
lose the
revert
zoning.
back
Right. it'll
to what
revert
it
back to
is.
the
If he were to sell the property, he'd lose the zoning and it would revert back.
So you're telling me if he decided to sell it, it's gonna automatically revert back?
If y'all
And then
put
it has-
that
If you put
clause.
I don't
in.
wanna, that's what I wanna put that in the clause.
Okay, Mr. Killian, you,
I'll remove my second. Is you okay with that?
all right,
It doesn't matter.
To me, that's,
This is not a discussion. This is so out of
we
order.
can't have this talking back.
You had a public hearing at the planning commission.
Yeah.
Now is not the time. I understand.
All right. Ms. Moser, you want to restate that motion?
You've been doing it all
Get my
night.
practice in it. I withdraw my motion and
Remake the motion.
make the motion that we approve the first reading of CCMA 2314
To allow.
to allow the motion, sorry, to allow it for approval. with a reverter clause that if the property is sold, that it reverts back to
Original, no.
original zoning.
Reverts back to R2.
R2.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I was looking for it. I couldn't see.
So,
Second, got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
so he'll be able to use his property for the purposes that he stated here, but if he was to sell it,
Yes,
it would revert back to the R2
yes.
and would have to come back before the planning commission if someone wants to change it. Okay, I can live with that.
All right, no more discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
Can he abstain?
You have to state the reason.
I am not going to vote against Mr. and Ms. Blanks. They're personal friends of mine, I'm not going to vote against.
So you have a conflict of
I have
interest.
a conflict
That-
of interest.
Okay. 6-4, and Mr. Agee abstains because of personal reason. All right? So be it. That take care of the first reading. Got 2 more to go on that one. All right, moving on down to B, the first reading of CCMA 23-15, Rodney L. Codwell, request map number 069-01-00-035-000, located at 619 Pine Ridge Road, Chester, South Carolina, 29706, to be rezoned from multifamily resident district RG1 to limited commercial district LC. Planning Commission voted 4-2 to approve. Need a motion on this.
I make a motion that we not uphold the planning commission.
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it with some comments and questions.
All right, let's open for discussion.
One of the reasons why I supported Mr. Agee is, again, staying consistent with not wanting commercial in residential areas. The property has reverted back to residential. I'll tell the citizens the same thing I was just telling the citizens about the Griffin property. I'm going to hold a town hall meeting also so that the citizens in this area can come to this meeting, because I do have concerns that if, when this property, if we don't allow, which I'm not voting for this property to change, I want, it'll stay RG1. But if the property stays RG1, then we'll continue to have a problem with the camper outside, someone living in the camper, which is against our ordinances. And if this owner never sells this property can dilapidate and then start to look real bad in the neighborhood. So I want to have a meeting with the residents there so that we can discuss some things, so that we can all be on the same page as to what we can do or what the options are in the future, because it's already an eyesore. I don't live far from it now. I actually know exactly where it is. I live right down the road from it. And there are a lot of cars parked out there. The camper is out there. I'm concerned about that. No one's supposed to be living in the camper there. So I will be having a meeting, and I will be letting you guys know when that meeting is, but right now I can't vote for this.
I attended the planning commission the other night when this was discussed. And Ms. McClintock, is that right? She spoke to the zoning board of the planning commission. So, according to Mr. Levester, if I misquote you, I apologize. But this particular piece of property was built before county had planning and zoning. It was grandfathered in to be whatever it is. Is that right, Mike?
It's been up there ever since I was a child. Well, my mama stayed right down the street from me.
So So basically, from talking with the owner of the property now, that's been in business since 1974. And then it got shut down in 2018, so he lost a grandfather clause. It's always been a commercial industrial environment, but he lost that use at that time.
Well, I came to Chester the other morning to do some stuff, and I was running a little early, so I rode down Pine Ridge Road. I'd never been down Pine Ridge Road. But these ladies are absolutely right. That is a very nice neighborhood. The yards are maintained, and then you've got this building sitting up there at the end of it that's not. It's totally against the character of the neighborhood. I don't know what you could do to make it work, but if somebody's not doing what the planning department says as far as living in a camper and those kinds of things.
But that question was asked, and the owner and the actual purchaser of the property says nobody's occupying it. I've rode by there a couple of times, haven't caught anybody. I've gave that report back to the administrator. I haven't caught anybody here, so I can't honestly say that somebody's occupying it, but I haven't caught anybody there in the camper yet.
You go by there every day, don't you?
I go by there, I go home that way.
A couple of questions for you. So in the current zoning, with it being RG1, there should not be anyone living there? Or there could be in the current zoning? Since it's reverted back to RG1,
It's never reverted back. It's
Okay.
always been RG1. It was
Okay.
established before the zoning was adopted in the.
the
Chester
grandfather
County.
expired, or the grandfather
The
clause
gran- He
expired?
lost the
Yeah.
non-conforming use in 2018 when he
Okay.
discontinued the use of the building.
So under RG1, could someone live in the building right now?
They can convert it into a house, yes, or to whatever kind of structure they want, because residential housing is allowed in RG1. And it's also allowed in limited commercial that he's requesting to be rezoned. That's the only commercial district that allows residential living.
And so that was my follow-up question. So with limited commercial, they could continue to live there, they could live there and run a business
Correct.
in the
Yes,
same,
sir.
in the same place?
Correct. He would just have to meet all the building and fire regulations.
The way it's zoned now.
Now, you can't run the business in it because
But-
it's not
but
a
he can
permitted
live in it.
use. But if he gets a request of the rezoning to limited commercial, he could occupy it as a residence and a business.
But he can't live in the camper.
Correct.
That's my concern.
Well, like I said, so far,
He can't live in the camper either way,
correct.
if he was living in the camper, yeah. So I'll tell you my concern is, I don't see how this is gonna end well if we force it to remain RG1. I mean, if you can't run a business out of there, I don't know what the future of that property is gonna be. It looks like it's gonna continue to dilapidate. You said that as well. I mean,
Yeah, that's my concern. That's why I'm gonna have a meeting with the people in that district, because if we don't, that property's gonna dilapidate and look really
Even worse.
bad. So I'm not gonna vote for it to change until I talk to the people until I talk to my people in my district.
is there any way that we can put a condition on the rezoning that would require that it be brought up to code?
Well,
That would be automatic.
it
I would
appeared
think
to
it would
me,
have
though,
to.
Yeah, that would be, I would think by operation of law, we would,
Get back up here, Mike.
right.
So would that address some of the issues of the
As
appearance?
far as the building and stuff, it
The
would have to,
camper.
it would have to be up to building code standards to get a CO permit or whatever. I think he's gonna do some interior work, so that would require a renovation permit to bring that up.
So is that a method for addressing some of the unsightliness of it?
As far as the,
Exterior,
well, we can make you move
Concerns.
the camper, because that's against the ordinance if somebody's living in the structure. There's nothing in there that says it can't be parked on commercial property. It does in our ordinance about residential districts.
I think the question too, that they're getting at is if it was rezoned, do the zoning requirements with regard to the vegetation, with regard to landscaping, all that would apply as well?
Well, as far as landscaping, there's really nowhere to add the landscaping, but we can put that in place because he'll have to meet our landscape buffer requirements.
But if it looks that bad, would it fall under our nuisance and abatement ordinance? Where we could go out there and tell them you've got so many
Cut
days to
grass
clean it
and-
up, or we're ticketing you, and
We can work with that with,
I mean, that,
Let me ask you one thing. The
Yes, sir.
gentleman that was at the meeting the other night that was wanting to sell it, how to say this really nice? He's sick. Is he sick or he has some health issues and he's wanting to sell
well,
it?
you remember, I think he said due to health, he was in the process of trying to
Just sell it?
sell it.
And see, that's another concern. If he sells it, who's he sell it to?
Well, he's gonna
What-
sell it.
And what's actually coming? And then that's where I go back to me being consistent and not wanting these things in residential areas. So
The person-
that brings me back to my vote again of no.
The person that wants to purchase the property right now is wanting to do electronic repairs. That's his proposed use as permitted, and that's permitted in limited commercial.
So that's the man sitting, living in the trailer. That's who you talking about?
No, that's the person, nobody supposedly living by the records that's on the planning commission. Like that's, on the minutes, it's documented that everybody got a copy of. That was one of the comments that the actual chairman of the planning commission asked the actual purchaser and the owner if anybody was occupying the camper, and both of them answered that question as no. And I haven't found anybody there yet at this point.
All right, any further discussion? And the motion was what now?
To deny,
To deny,
not approve.
to not approve it, to go against the planning commission. All right, everybody ready to vote? All in favor of not approving the commission's, vote to approve, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed? None? Oh, you gonna vote, then, so, 6-4, and Mr. Wilson voted nay on that to approve it.
So for the citizens' knowledge, where does this leave? There's a second reading on this,
Oh, there'll be
correct?
3 readings.
Yeah.
It's
So
gonna be
there's a
3
second
readings
so-
regardless of where we approve it or deny it tonight. The only one that really counts is the 3rd reading.
So we have voted not to approve on the first reading.
Correct.
Yes.
You gotta have your meeting.
So I'll let the citizens know when I have my meeting.
All right. In other words, we went with the people that spoke against. All right, moving on to number 8 to C, the first reading of CCTA 23-02, RS1 Chester County zoning ordinance text amendment, single-family resident district uses of chapter 4-109 RS1 special exception recommendation to remove text RS1. Special exception item number 2, planning commission voted 6-0 to approve.
I make a motion, we adopt CCTA 23-02.
Second.
You second that, Ms. Moses? Okay, we got a motion, okay. I'd like to ask Mr. Levister to come back up here and explain that to us, and what his opinion on this. Is this to help the Chester County, or is this be detrimental to?
This was actually a request that was presented to the county administrator, Mr. Hester, to make a text amendment to remove the cluster development, so all developments in the county would have to come before the planning commission and the county council for their vote, instead of giving the authority to the zoning board of appeals to approve cluster development that's only allowed in RS1 zoning, in Chester County zoning ordinance.
Which would include what? I mean, how many, when you say cluster, how, is it a certain
We only
amount?
have one. To give you an example would be Knightsbridge. Knightsbridge come to the planning commission and county council, y'all voted against it. The property was already currently zoned RS1, so the developer come back as a cluster development and went before the zoning board of appeals for the approval of a cluster development as a special exception. It's not a permitted use.
All right, we got it. Any further discussion on this or questions for Mr. Levister on this?
What, the other night, when you go to the zoning board, the planning department, Mr. Raines is very specific. He does a really good job. When he gets through, whatever the decision is, he says, and you will be able to go to county council, and county council approves or disapproves what the planning commission did.
Correct.
Point blank says that every meeting. This particular thing, the county council disapproved it, and they went around and in round and away, in around to get it approved through the cluster development, and ended up doing what we said, or y'all said, no to. And we got Mr. Kozlowski to draft this, if I understand that right, Mr. Hester. So Mr. Kozlowski.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So the planning, so the county council is the ultimate authority of what gets developed in this county.
So it throws it back on the county council and takes it off of the commission. and doing
Takes
that.
it off the zoning board of appeals. It was a smaller development when it was brought back as a cluster development. It wasn't as many home sites. But it gave the developer the opportunity to come back to the county under the current zoning as a special exception for cluster development. But with the recommendation to remove that from the RS1 zoning special exception, from now on, all developments would be going through the planning commission for a recommendation to county council's vote.
And so when they brought it back to the, as a special exception to the zoning board of appeals, why did they cut it from 840 homes down to 300, 298? What's the number?
I think the actual square footage is documented, and we even increased that after that cluster development was approved. I think we increased it to almost 14,000 something square foot. Don't quote me to the number, but we increased the square footage per lot. We did make some adjustments to it after that.
Thank you.
Any further questions? That makes it, that clears it up in my mind some. I wasn't really, real sure what he was trying to get at there, so. Basically, what the end results, anything that, any of these developments have to be, the final approval have to be given by the council sitting at the time. All right, any more further discussion? Let's see, to approve this, I guess it would be to approve it as written then, wouldn't it? All right, all in favor of the first reading of CCTA 23-02, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Unanimous vote. Okay, on the on the D, first reading of CCTA 23-03, PD, Chester zoning, Chester County zoning ordinance text amendment, okay, I guess that's a different one too. Development of district regulations on the chapter 4-130, recommendations, a new text of PD, plan development district regulations, planning division, commission voted 6-0 to approve. And up under that, it has the maximum number of units. The number of units shall not exceed the guaranteed allotment for service of water and wastewater. Should the water and wastewater guarantee expire before the development construction begins, the zoning shall revert to the previous zoning.
I'll move that we approve the first reading of CCTA 23-03.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hear no discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Unanimous vote. Okay, now we get on to E under 8. Request to accept grants awarded to the Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Dorsey, you want to speak to this?
Briefly, I have, we've sent out some grant applications, and we were awarded 5 of those here recently. I'll speak to all of them, and I believe you have to make motions and vote on each of them individually. But we're proud, we've received awards totaling $146,000, and it's costing us $4,644 to receive those grants. Number one, the Justice Assistance Grant is to purchase a spectrometer. That is a Raman spectrometer. It's an ion scanner. Very technical, something that's way over my head, but essentially when we seize drugs or suspected drugs, it's a device that will shoot light into the suspected drug, and it will analyze what kind of drug it is. And so in the days of synthetics and very dangerous fentanyl, we can handle those suspected drugs more carefully. The next is a JAG grant for court security radios. Those will be the same types of radios that we've been purchasing with our Palmet 800 system. Number 3, the highway safety grant. That is something new this year that we applied for to help supplement the deputies' overtime, to let them go out and be more aggressive in DUI enforcement. Number 4 is the highway safety grant. We received $10,000 more for our in-car cameras. That's another technology advancement that we've been trying to improve our technology. And then number 5, that is the body-worn camera grant that we receive each year. We have to apply. That comes from our state. And so that's a total of $67,000. So like I said, a total of $146,507 in grant receipts. And we would have to match 2 of those grants totaling $4,644. We put that in our grant match budget with Mr. Darby. And I know y'all have to look at Mr. Darby for the infamous thumbs up or thumbs down. He gives the thumbs up, so I would ask the council to approve those grant requests.
I just heard we had $1.2 million in a capital reserve fund, and I don't see why that can't pay for this.
I know Mr. Hester will be able to find $4,600 for us.
Well, we budgeted grant match. We need to spend it first.
Right.
Spend it for what it's for.
All right, we need to go through and vote on each one of these, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll go ahead and vote on each one then to the Justice Assistant Grant, number 5G004-520, speedometer for Narcotics, 27,000 with a 10% match. Need a motion on that.
I'll move that we approve.
Second.
Okay, need a second? Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous vote. Justice Assistant Grant, number 5G001023, Court Security Radios, $19,440 with a 10% match. Any discussion? I'll need a motion first.
Make a
Motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Guy. Any discussion? Hear none. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Unanimous vote. Federal fiscal year 2024 Highway Safety Grant for overtime for checkpoints for DUI, $23,000 with a 0 match. Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Need a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor of receiving this highway safety grant, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Unanimous vote. Highway safety grant, in-car camera maintenance and storage, $10,000 with 0 match. Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Need a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Vaughn. Discussion? Here, no discussion. All in favor of the highway safety grant in-car camera, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote. Highway safety grant body worn cameras, maintenance and storage, $67,000, 067 and 49 cents, 0 match. Need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Second for Mr. Guy. Any discussion? Hear no discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Unanimous vote. Okay. Thank y'all. Now we move on to executive session. We gonna need a motion to go into executive session to receive legal advice regarding economic development manager, matter project 2106, and to receive legal advice regarding real estate matters, and to receive personal matters regarding the administrator's office, and to receive legal advice regarding economic development matters. Need a motion.
Make a motion, we go into executive session.
Okay, second?